I didn't expect to be awake when Hannah got back. It was nearly 2 a.m. and I was alone in the living room sitting on the couch with only the faint glow of the streetlight sneaking through the blinds. Our street was dead quiet, the kind of stillness that makes you feel like you're the last person awake in the world. I wasn't even sure why I stayed up. Maybe part of me knew something was coming. Maybe I just couldn't sleep. The plan, according to Hannah, was simple. She was supposed to be returning from a work trip in Chicago, 3 days of meetings and presentations with her team, followed by a late-night flight back. She texted me at around 10 p.m. saying the flight had landed. Said she was tired. I asked if she wanted me to pick her up. She said no, she'd just grab a cab. But then about 4 hours later, a car rolled down our street, too slowly. Headlights dimmed as it coasted past our mailbox. It wasn't a taxi and it wasn't a rideshare. I know what those look like by now. This was a black Chevy Malibu. Tinted windows. Too polished. Too familiar. I pulled back the curtain a little more and leaned toward the window, careful not to move too suddenly. From inside, I watched as the car eased to a stop in front of our driveway. The engine idled. A few seconds passed and then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Fit. Rolled up white shirt like he'd been out somewhere warm. He looked around briefly, calm, confident. Not in any hurry to leave. And then out came Hannah. She stepped from the passenger side, dressed in her usual travel look, blazer, fitted jeans, and the flats she always claimed were airport-proof. But something about her posture was different, looser. She didn't look like someone who just spent hours flying cross-country. She looked light, energized, like she had just come from somewhere that filled her up. She walked straight up to him. No hesitation. She hugged him. Not a stiff, goodbye kind of hug, but one that lingered. Her arms looped behind his back, her face tucked close to his neck. I saw her body lean in just slightly, like it was second nature. Then she pulled back only a little and kissed him on the cheek. It was gentle. Too close. Too practiced. My mouth went dry. They said a few words, quiet, nothing I could hear, but she smiled. A soft, warm smile I hadn't seen in months. The man gave a little nod, then turned back to his car and drove off without even looking up at the house. And Hannah? She walked up the front steps like nothing had happened. No rush. No guilt in her stride. Just the sound of her keys jingling and the soft thud of her flats on the wooden porch. I sat perfectly still. Didn't say a word as she walked through the front door, flicked on the entryway light, and spotted me. Her expression didn't change. Maybe the sight of me sitting there didn't register as strange to her, or maybe she didn't care that it did. Hey, she said, setting her purse on the bench by the wall. You're still up. I nodded. That's all I could do. She kicked off her shoes, stretched her arms above her head, then added with a little exhale, that was just a colleague. He offered to give me a ride. His flight landed around the same time, so figured, why not? My jaw tightened, but I didn't say anything. I just stared. He's married, she added quickly, like that was some kind of insurance. 2 kids. So, there's nothing to worry about. Then she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was the same smile she used on neighbors or strangers in line at the grocery store. Hollow. Practiced. Not for me. She didn't ask how I was. Didn't say she missed me. Didn't even make a move to sit beside me or touch my arm or lean her head on my shoulder like she used to after a trip. Instead, she walked past me and headed down the hallway, calling over her shoulder, I'm going to shower. That flight was brutal. The bathroom door clicked shut. And just like that, I was left sitting there, the living room suddenly cold despite the mild summer night. It wasn't just the hug. Or the kiss. It was everything about it. The familiarity. The comfort. The way she hadn't even flinched when I caught her in the act of whatever that was. A colleague. Right? A colleague doesn't hold you like that. A colleague doesn't make your face light up in the middle of the night. A colleague doesn't linger in your driveway while you whisper your goodbyes under the cover of darkness. But maybe the worst part wasn't the kiss. It was my reaction or lack of one. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I didn't even ask a single question. I just sat there, stuck in the doorway of a realization I couldn't yet walk through. Because if I said it out loud, if I asked her the thing that was clawing at my gut, I'd have to face the answer. So I stayed silent. Just long enough for the water in the bathroom to start running. And that silence? It stretched further than I ever imagined. It followed me to bed. It laid beside me, wide-eyed and restless. It whispered in my ear all night, something's wrong. Something's broken. And maybe it's already too late. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the soft hum of the bathroom fan filled the silence between us. Hannah climbed in beside me at some point, Hair damp, body freshly lotioned, the scent oddly unfamiliar, like something new she hadn't worn before. She didn't touch me. Didn't speak. Just curled away and went still. I didn't close my eyes once. My brain replayed the hug. The kiss. The way she said, "There's nothing to worry about," like I was a child having a nightmare, not a man watching his wife return home wrapped in someone else's comfort. I lay there and rewound the tape in my head, stretching back through the last few months. Things I had pushed away started surfacing again, sharp and unwelcome. She'd been different lately, hadn't she? The more I thought about it, the more I realized how obvious it had been. It wasn't just the missed touches or the quick, half-hearted kisses on the cheek when she left for work. It was the way she pulled back from me like I was a hot stove she didn't want to get burned by. The way she stopped saying, "love you" back if I said it first, always waiting, like the words had to pass inspection before she could accept them. There were the texts too. At dinner, during movies, while brushing her teeth, always tapping away at her phone with that tight little smile. I used to ask who she was talking to. She'd say, "just my team," or "Emma from work, she's freaking out about something." But I never saw the screen. And slowly, she started guarding her phone like it was a second limb. Always face down on the nightstand. Screen dimmed. Notifications silenced. If I so much as glanced in its direction, she'd pick it up like I was about to steal a secret I wasn't supposed to know. Then there were the trips. They started about 4 months ago, small at first. A day here. 2 days there. "Corporate's been ramping up," she'd said. "We're launching a new client campaign. Everyone's putting in extra hours." And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was always good at what she did. People respected her. But the changes crept in alongside those trips. She started coming home different. It's hard to explain, but the energy in her was off. Not tired or stressed like someone working too hard, but distracted. Recharged even. Like she had been somewhere that made her feel alive again. Like she had left part of herself elsewhere, and maybe that part was exactly where she wanted to be. I told myself it was stress. I told myself we were just in a rough patch. That married people go through seasons. That life gets busy, work gets tough, and connection fades but comes back. I convinced myself that if I just waited it out, things would fall back into place. But they didn't. And now, after watching her kiss another man in the dark and walk into our home like it was normal, I realized something brutal. The only reason it seemed like I didn't know was because I didn't want to know. The signs weren't hidden. I had just refused to connect the dots. There was one night that stuck out now. A Tuesday in April. She came home late from drinks with coworkers, her hair curled in a way I'd never seen before. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes shining. She looked good, too good for a post-work happy hour. When I asked how it went, she smiled and said it was fine. Then she kissed me on the temple and asked if I'd already eaten. She didn't touch her food that night. I should have seen it. I should have said something. But instead, I cleared the plates and washed the dishes like a fool. Like a man who thought doing chores and being patient was enough to keep love intact. There were 100 of those moments. Little red flags I buried because the idea of her being unfaithful felt absurd. Hannah was driven. Loyal. Focused. She didn't even flirt at parties. That's what I used to tell people, used to tell myself. She's not the type. But people change. Or maybe they reveal who they've been all along. Even in bed, things shifted. She used to curl against me at night, pull my arm around her like she needed the weight of it to fall asleep. But that faded. She started turning away, sleeping on the edge. Started getting too hot for cuddling. Or saying she had an early morning and needed space to stretch out. I didn't question it. I respected her boundaries. That's what you do, right? But now I wondered who she did need beside her. Whose arms she felt comfortable in. And it wasn't just physical. It was everything. Her laughter changed. I'd catch her giggling at her phone in the kitchen, and when I walked in, she'd hide the screen like it was private. She'd say it was a meme or a group chat joke. But I never heard those laughs with me anymore. Not the unguarded, belly-deep ones she used to have when we watched bad reality shows or when I burned pancakes and blamed the spatula. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped kissing me goodbye. Stopped reaching for me under the covers when she couldn't sleep. She stopped seeing me. And I let her. I lay there that night, listening to her breath slow into sleep beside me, and realized I wasn't mourning a single moment. I was mourning 1,000 little losses that had already happened while I was still pretending things were fine. My heart felt like a clenched fist. And in that darkness, I made myself a quiet promise. I wasn't going to ignore it anymore. Whatever this was, whatever she had started, I was going to find out. I had to. Because love shouldn't feel like waiting for someone to come back to you. Especially when they're already in your bed. It was a Tuesday morning when everything I'd been denying finally crashed down with clarity. I wasn't looking for answers that day, not actively. I wasn't on some mission to uncover the truth. I just wanted to print out a return label. That's it. One small, mundane task. But life has a cruel way of delivering its truths in moments we least expect. Hannah had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, lid slightly ajar, screen still glowing from whatever she'd been working on. I don't know what compelled me to use hers instead of my own. Maybe part of me was tired of walking on eggshells. Maybe I just wanted to feel like this was still my house too, that I still had a right to reach for something without permission. So I opened it. No password prompt. The screen blinked back to life and a window was already open, her messaging app. One of those encrypted ones, the kind people use when they don't want messages showing up on their phones. At first, I wasn't even reading it. I just stared at the screen, my brain too tired to process the layout. And then a name caught my eye. Jason. Just a colleague. Married. 2 kids. The man from the Chevy. I clicked on the thread. And just like that, the mask fell. There were no formalities, no workplace chats. Just message after message dripping in asterisk Macy. And familiarity. Her words hit like punches. I miss your hands on me. Your cocky smile is still in my head. That night in the hotel felt like something out of a movie. Like we escaped the world for a little while. Every line was a crack in the wall I'd built to protect myself from this reality. I scrolled down, slower now, like peeling off a bandage from raw skin. Then there were the photos. One of her, standing in front of a hotel window. Wearing white lingerie I had never seen before. The skyline outside suggested it wasn't just any hotel, it was downtown Chicago, a high-rise suite. She wasn't facing the camera. She was turned away, looking over her shoulder, her reflection faint in the glass. Her body language wasn't nervous or shy. It was confident. Intentional. Jason had captioned the photo, "Our room." She replied, "Soon again." My hands went numb. It wasn't the *Zool aspect that broke me, it was the ease of it. The naturalness. They had a rhythm. A language. They shared something that didn't come from a fling or a mistake. This was time. Trust. Repetition. I closed the laptop slowly and stared at the kitchen wall. The backsplash. The coffee maker. The way the morning sun hit the edge of the counter. Everything looked the same and yet everything was different. Because now I knew. And once you see the truth laid bare, you can't ever unsee it. There were other messages. One about an upcoming trip, he was suggesting Miami next. She asked if he could handle the booking again because her calendar was suspiciously full at home. Another about her birthday, he said he wanted to give her something more memorable than dinner with her husband. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember walking to the sink or rinsing the coffee cup I'd been holding. But I remember the noise. The sharp clang when I dropped the mug in the basin too hard. The sound made me flinch like it came from someone else's house. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just stood there, the cold of the countertop pressed against my palms, feeling like the ground beneath my feet had shifted just enough to send everything tilting. The door opened behind me. I didn't move. "Hey," she said casually. "You see my..." She paused mid-sentence. I heard her footsteps hesitate, then start again. "Oh, hey. Did you use my laptop?" I turned slowly. Her face was unreadable for a second, but her eyes flicked to the screen. And I saw it. The split-second panic. The way her jaw tensed. I didn't say a word. Just looked at her. She stepped closer, trying to recover. "You know, I was chatting with some people from work. Just catching up. Some of the guys can get weird when we travel. I ignore it." Still, I said nothing. She laughed, nervous, high-pitched. "Don't look at me like that." "I didn't say anything," I said, my voice level. Too level. "Yeah, but you're thinking something," she replied, arms crossing. "You always do this. Make up stories in your head." I shook my head, slowly. "I'm not making anything up." Silence. "Look," she finally said, her voice shifting, softer. "I don't know what you saw, but I can explain." "No," I said. "Don't." Her eyes narrowed. "So what, you're just going to assume the worst?" I didn't assume anything. I read it. All of it. And then came the shift, the subtle drop of the shoulders, the small exhale. She didn't deny it, didn't beg, didn't even act shocked. Just folded her arms tighter, like bracing against wind. "It's complicated," she said finally. I almost laughed. "It's not. It's really, really simple." She looked down, then up again. "You haven't been here." "What?" "Emotionally," she said, her voice firmer now. "You've been somewhere else for months. I come home and it's like you don't even see me. I stared at her in disbelief. So you replaced me? It wasn't like that. Then what was it? She didn't answer. I could feel something unraveling between us. Whatever fragile thread had kept this marriage from splitting entirely, it was gone. And yet all I felt was a strange kind of clarity, like something in me finally stood up. I walked out of the kitchen without another word, went upstairs, shut the bedroom door behind me, and for the first time in our marriage I didn't feel married. I didn't speak to her for the rest of the day. After I shut the bedroom door, I sat on the edge of the bed for hours, trying to feel something that made sense. Rage, sorrow, panic. But instead, what I felt was a dull, hollow stillness. The kind of silence that stretches out so wide it swallows your thoughts. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even move. Just sat there, hands clasped, elbows on my knees, like I was in a waiting room where the bad news had already arrived. Downstairs, I heard the sounds of her moving around. Quiet at first. The shuffle of feet, the soft click of the fridge. Then nothing. She was giving me space, but not out of kindness. Out of calculation. Because she didn't know what to say. Or maybe she was hoping I'd come out first. That I'd break the silence like I always did. But I didn't. The next morning, I left the house without a word. I drove aimlessly for a while, ending up in the part of town where everything still looked like it did when we were first married. Quiet neighborhoods, local bakeries, old brick storefronts. I sat in the car and stared out the windshield, trying to remember who I was before everything turned into a performance of pretending. Then I called my sister. Melissa answered on the second ring, her voice groggy. You okay? I didn't say anything right away, just swallowed and let the silence stretch. Then, quietly, I said, Can I come over? She didn't ask why, just said, Yeah. Doors unlocked. When I pulled into her driveway, she was already standing on the porch in her robe with a mug of coffee, her expression somewhere between concern and readiness. The second I stepped out of the car, she looked me in the eye and said, You found something, didn't you? I nodded. Inside, she didn't ask for details. Not at first. She poured me a mug, handed it over without a word, and sat across from me at the kitchen table. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence built from years of knowing how the other person works. Eventually, I told her. Not all at once. Came out in fragments, small, clipped phrases. The car. The kiss. The messages. The photo. Her eyes never left mine, and she didn't flinch once. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and said something I didn't expect. Do it right. Clean. And forever. I blinked. What? You heard me, she said. Don't get dramatic. Don't set the house on fire. Just be smart. Quiet. Leave her with nothing but silence and consequences. Melissa had always been blunt. But in that moment I needed it. Because I didn't want revenge. I didn't want a breakdown. I just wanted out. I wanted clarity. And I wanted to make sure that whatever came next didn't end with me looking back, wondering if I'd been too weak to choose myself. That afternoon, Melissa made a call. Her friend Clara was a divorce lawyer. Sharp, unflinching, the kind of woman who didn't ask if you were ready but instead asked where to start. I met with Clara 2 hours later. She didn't blink when I laid out the situation. Didn't ask if I was sure. She just listened, took notes and said, Good, let's get ahead of it. We started putting a plan together. Quietly, she asked for **TS, printouts, anything that would make a judge look at the facts and not the feelings. I gave her everything I had from the laptop and she showed me how to request access to our shared cloud accounts where more evidence might live, a shared calendars, message archives, sync location data. Turns out Hannah had backed up more than she realized. Clara didn't promise drama. She promised precision. You don't need a scene, she said. You need leverage. Over the next 2 days, I stayed at Melissa's place. Slept on the couch, drank too much coffee, tried not to think about how I'd gone from husband to client in the span of a single morning. Hannah called once. I let it ring. Then she texted, Are you okay? Can we talk? I didn't reply. She didn't call again. I imagined her pacing the house, wondering where I went. Imagined her checking the driveway every hour, waiting to hear the sound of the garage door opening. I pictured her rehearsing explanations, stories twisted into something palatable, something forgivable. But she didn't know what I knew. And she didn't realize I had already begged and the quiet work of ending everything she thought she still had control over. By the third morning, Clara had a working file started. She'd contacted a private investigator just in case we needed more documentation. She advised me not to confront Hannah. Let her think she's safe, she said. The more comfortable she feels, the less careful she'll be. It was strange, this new world of strategic silence. But also empowering. When I finally returned home that night, the air inside felt different. Hannah was in the living room, curled up on the couch with her laptop, laughing at something on a video call. I stood just inside the door for a moment, watching her. She looked relaxed. Unbothered. Still playing the role of someone whose world hadn't just split in half. When she noticed me, she smiled, reflexive like muscle memory. Hey, she said, closing the laptop. You okay? I nodded once. Just tired. She stood and crossed the room like she wanted to close the gap between us. But I walked past her, straight to the kitchen. Pulled out the folder Clara had given me, thick with evidence, and laid it on the table. She didn't see it right away. But it was there. Waiting. And I waited too. Not to scream. Not to accuse. But for the moment when her world finally tilted. She didn't notice the folder at first. She floated around the kitchen like nothing had changed, opening the fridge, asking me if I'd eaten, talking about how her meetings that day had been chaotic but productive. Her voice had that light, practiced rhythm. Like she was trying to reset the tone. Trying to steer us back to normal without acknowledging that we'd already crossed a line there was no coming back from. I didn't respond. I sat at the table, arms folded, eyes on the folder I had placed squarely in the center. It wasn't dramatic, no bold labels, no red tape. Just a simple black binder with neatly tabbed pages inside, messages, *TS, copies of emails, booking confirmations for hotels she claimed she had never stayed at. Eventually, she caught my silence. The fake cheer faded from her voice, her movements slowing as she glanced over her shoulder. What's that? She walked over, drying her hands on a dish towel, and leaned down just enough to read the first tab sticking out from the top. Her brow furrowed. Then she opened it. The first page was a printed message from Jason, the one where he told her how perfect she looked in the mirror of their hotel room. The second was her reply, that window view was something else. Can't stop thinking about that night. She flipped the next page. Another message. Then another. Her pace slowed. Her eyes stopped scanning and started absorbing. And as she reached the fourth tab where Clara had printed out the lingerie photo captioned, "Our room," I saw it, the breath hitch. Her mouth opened, then closed. Finally, she looked up at me. You went through my laptop? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She took a step back, arms crossing over her chest like she was suddenly cold. That was private. So was our marriage, I said. Or at least I thought it was. She swallowed hard. It's not what you think. I tilted my head. You're going to stand there and tell me that isn't you in those messages? Her voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled. Then how did you mean for it to happen? She hesitated. That's when the mask finally cracked. Her voice dropped. It wasn't supposed to be real. Jason was just someone to talk to at first. You kissed him. You shared a hotel room with him. You sent him pictures, ones you never took for me. You lied to my face, Hannah. Repeatedly. How much more real could it be? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her eyes were wide now. No more performative anger. Just shock. And fear. You were going to keep doing it, weren't you? I asked, my voice quiet. Another trip. Another hotel. Another lie. She looked down at the floor. I don't know. And that was the truth. She didn't know. Because she wasn't finished. If I hadn't found out, she would have gone right back to it, just like she always had. I stood up. Her head snapped up. Wait. I paused. She stepped forward. We can talk about this. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But we don't have to end things this way. You already did, I said. You just didn't want to be the one to say it out loud. She blinked rapidly like the words physically stung her. Hannah, I continued, calmer than I expected, this isn't a phase. This isn't something we'll laugh about someday. This is the end. Her jaw clenched. You're really going to throw away 10 years? I nodded slowly. You did that already. I'm just cleaning up the mess. And then it happened, her face changed. Hardened. That softness disappeared, replaced by something sharp and defensive. Her chin lifted. Her shoulders squared. You won't go through with it, she said. It was quiet, almost a whisper. But the arrogance was there. You're hurt. I get it. But you're not the type to follow through on something like this. You'll cool off. You always do. I stared at her. You really think I don't have the strength to walk away from you? I think you're still in love with me, she said, taking another step closer. And people don't destroy what they love. They fight for it. I let out a short breath. Not quite a laugh. More like disbelief. She didn't understand. She still thought this was about whether I loved her. Hannah, I said quietly, you're not the person I fell in love with. That made her flinch. You think I'm doing this because I'm angry. But I'm doing it because I've seen who you really are now. And I don't want to spend another day pretending I'm okay with that. She didn't speak. Just stood there, shoulders trembling, lips parted. I walked past her, upstairs to the bedroom, and began pulling things from the closet, my suitcase, a few shirts, the things I'd need until everything was sorted. I wasn't going far. Just back to Melissa's for now. But I needed the space. I needed her to see the gap forming between us, growing wider by the hour. When I came back down, she was still standing in the same spot. You're making a mistake, she said, voice quieter now. No, I said. You made the mistake. I'm just making a decision. Then I grabbed my keys. As I stepped through the door, she called out one last time. You're going to regret this. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. No, I said without turning around. I'm going to survive it. Then I closed the door behind me, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel trapped. After I left, the silence in the house must have echoed. I stayed at Melissa's again that night. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a blanket, poured us both a drink, and let me be. I think she knew there was nothing she could say that would hurt or help more than the truth already had. Back at home, Hannah began texting the next day. Short at first. Where are you? Are we really doing this? By the third message, her tone changed. We can fix it. Don't throw everything away. I didn't reply. When I finally came back 3 days later, I could tell the energy in the house had shifted. Hannah didn't meet me at the door. She was in the kitchen, pacing, phone in hand. She looked thinner, like she hadn't been sleeping. Her voice cracked when she said hi, like she didn't expect me to walk through the door again. But I hadn't returned for her. I came to pack, to organize, to finalize. I didn't argue. I didn't comfort her. I didn't even ask questions. I just moved through the house like it was a place I'd borrowed and was now returning. Calm, collected, and that scared her more than any screaming match would have. She watched me closely that week, every bag I carried, every drawer I emptied. Her questions became more desperate. Are you sure we can't talk? Do you even remember how happy we used to be? What if I change? But it was too late for changes. Too late for memories. She tried being sweet, tried acting like we were still us. But every move she made was like a faint echo, something once familiar, now hollow. She even cooked one of my favorite dinners on Wednesday night, just left it on the table without a word. I didn't touch it. That night, she stood outside the bedroom door I was using and whispered, we can still fix this. But I didn't open the door. I couldn't. Because she didn't realize this wasn't about revenge. This was about clarity. About freedom. And the clearer things got, the less she resembled the woman I thought I married. On the last day, she walked out of the bedroom with a suitcase in one hand and her purse slung over her shoulder. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stood by the front door, waiting for me to say something that would stop her. But I didn't. I stood by the window watching the early evening sun hit the pavement. Her eyes searched mine like she was still hoping for some version of me that hadn't let go yet. But he was gone. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her keys were on the counter. Her phone in her hand. But she didn't make a call. She didn't ask for a ride. She just stood there. In her eyes, I saw it fear. Not of me. Not of consequences. But of the emptiness. Of the silence. She thought I'd break. Thought I'd chase her. Thought I'd collapse at the door like a man who still believed she was worth saving. But I didn't move. And when she finally opened the door and stepped outside, she left something behind she didn't mean to. Her power. The door clicked shut behind her and the air in the house changed. Not heavier. Lighter. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't the end of me. This wasn't the collapse of my life. This was its release. Her betrayal had been a slow poison and I'd stopped drinking from the cup. So when she walked away, she didn't take anything real with her. She lost something. I gained something. She walked out with shame. I stayed behind with peace.